I know this looks bad, but listen to me.
What is going on?
Just give me a chance to explain. We have to keep moving.
Are you okay? You're bleeding.
I'll be fine. Don't stop.
I'm right here.
Do enjoy the story, but don't forget to subscribe to this channel.
Wait here. I don't want them to see you with me. And then blame you too for this.
Everyone was right about him. That's what I kept hearing as I stood there that night, watching Gabriel from across the parking lot. His knuckles were bleeding again. His chest heaved with anger. People whispered his name like a curse, like saying it too loud might summon something dangerous. My heart pounded, not from fear of what he might do to me, but from terror that this was it, the moment he would finally become the monster everyone kept telling him he was. I watched his face twist with pain and rage. He looked around at the crowd, at the judgment in their eyes. Then his gaze found mine. For 3 seconds, we just stared at each other. I wanted to run to him. I wanted to scream that they were all wrong. But before I could move, Gabriel turned his back and walked away into the darkness. I stood frozen, wondering if I had just lost him forever. The whispers grew louder around me. Someone laughed. Someone said, "I told you so." And I felt something crack inside my chest. I found him 2 hours later sitting on the bleachers behind the old gym. He didn't look up when I approached. His hands were still bloody, wrapped in his shirt. The silence between us felt heavy, suffocating. I sat down beside him without asking permission. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Why do you keep doing this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why do you keep destroying every good thing that comes close to you?" He didn't answer at first. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold, sharp, like broken glass. "You think you know me, Michelle? You think because you smile at me in the hallways, because you sit with me when no one else will, that makes you special? It doesn't. You're just like everyone else. You'll leave too." His words hit me like fists. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I stood up slowly, legs trembling. "I can't keep defending someone who won't fight for himself," I whispered. Then I walked away. I didn't look back, even though every part of me wanted to. 8 months earlier, I didn't even know Gabriel existed. Well, that's not exactly true. Everyone knew about Gabriel Torres. He was the guy teachers warned you about, the one parents told their daughters to avoid, the boy who sat alone not because he wanted to, but because fear surrounded him like a force field. I noticed him on my 3rd day at Lincoln High. He walked through the hallways like he was carrying the weight of everyone's hatred on his shoulders. His eyes were always down, jaw tight, hands shoved deep in his pockets. People moved out of his way, not respectfully, fearfully. I heard the stories about fights, about his temper, about how he'd been expelled from 2 schools before this one, about how his father was in prison and his mother had abandoned him. The stories painted him as dangerous, broken, someone to avoid at all costs. But I watched him, really watched him, and what I saw wasn't a monster. I saw someone drowning in silence. Our first real conversation happened by accident. I was in the library after school, hiding from my own problems, when someone sat down at my table. I looked up, and there he was, Gabriel. My first instinct was to grab my things and leave, like everyone else would, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the way he didn't look at me, the way he just opened a book and started reading, like I wasn't even there. So I stayed. We sat in silence for maybe 20 minutes. Then my phone buzzed loudly. I fumbled to silence it, embarrassed. He glanced up, and our eyes met for the first time. "Sorry," I whispered. He nodded once, then went back to his book. That should have been it. But then I noticed what he was reading, Native Son by Richard Wright. "That's a heavy book," I said before I could stop myself. He looked at me, surprised I was still talking. "You read it?" he asked. His voice was deeper than I expected, rougher. I nodded. "Last year." He studied my face like he was trying to figure out if I was lying. Then, "Why aren't you afraid of me?" he asked quietly. That question hung in the air between us. I thought about it honestly. Everyone else had given me reasons to fear Gabriel, but none of them made sense when I looked at him sitting there, just a guy reading a book in an empty library. "I'm not afraid of you because I don't know you yet," I finally answered. "Maybe I should be, but fear without reason is just prejudice, isn't it?" Something changed in his expression. Not a smile, Gabriel didn't smile easily, but the hardness in his eyes softened just a little. Over the next few weeks, we kept meeting in the library. Never planned, we'd just end up there at the same time. He started telling me things, small things at first, how he hated mornings, how he liked old movies, then bigger things, about his father who chose crime over family, about his mother who left when he was 9, about foster homes where he learned that anger kept people away, and being alone hurt less than being rejected. I listened, not because I pitied him, but because finally someone was seeing past the armor, and that someone was me. But getting close to Gabriel came with a price. People noticed. Of course they noticed. At lunch, my friends started asking questions. "Why are you talking to him? Do you know what people are saying? He's dangerous, Michelle. You're going to get hurt." At first, I defended him, tried to explain that they didn't know the real Gabriel, but their warnings grew louder. Then people stopped sitting with me. My best friend since middle school, Amanda, pulled me aside one day. Her face was serious, almost scared. "I care about you, but I can't watch you destroy your reputation for some guy who's going to end up in jail anyway. Choose, Michelle, us or him." I chose him, not because I didn't value my friendships, but because walking away from Gabriel would have meant confirming everything cruel the world had already decided about him. Gabriel noticed the change, saw how people treated me differently now. One afternoon, Gabriel stopped showing up to the library. I found him behind the school, alone as always. "Why are you avoiding me?" I demanded. He wouldn't look at me. "Because you deserve better than this, better than me." I stepped closer. "You don't get to decide who I love," I said. The word hung in the air. Love. I'd said it, and I meant it. After that day, something shifted in Gabriel. He started trying, really trying. I saw him in the hallways taking deep breaths when someone bumped into him on purpose. I watched him clench his fists but keep walking when people muttered insults under their breath. He stopped reacting, stopped giving them what they expected. But change isn't easy, and old habits don't die quietly. One lunch period, Marcus Bell, the biggest bully in school, decided to test Gabriel's new patience. He walked right up to our table and knocked Gabriel's food onto the floor. "Oops," Marcus said with a smirk. Everyone froze. The cafeteria went silent. I could see Gabriel's jaw working, his hands shaking. The old Gabriel would have exploded, would have given Marcus exactly what he wanted. Instead, Gabriel stood up slowly, picked up his tray, looked Marcus dead in the eye, and said, "You should be more careful." Then he walked away. I followed him outside, found him leaning against the wall, breathing hard. "I'm proud of you," I said softly. He looked at me with such raw emotion. "That was the hardest thing I've ever done," I whispered, "but you did it." But 2 weeks later, Gabriel slipped. It happened fast. Some guy from another school started harassing a freshman girl near the parking lot, touching her when she clearly didn't want it, making her uncomfortable. Gabriel saw it, and something in him snapped. He didn't think, he just moved, grabbed the guy by his jacket and shoved him against a car, hard. The guy's friends jumped in. Teachers came running. By the time they pulled everyone apart, Gabriel's knuckles were bloody again. The girl he'd defended tried to explain, but no one listened. They only saw Gabriel, the troublemaker, the violent one. I found him in the principal's office waiting area. His face was empty, defeated. I sat beside him. "You were protecting her," I said. "Doesn't matter," he replied. "No one will see it that way." And he was right. The suspension came the next day, 3 days. When he came back to school, the whispers were worse than ever. "See? Told you he hadn't changed. People like him never do." I wanted to scream at them all, but Gabriel was different, quieter. That night, he called me. "I think I need space, Michelle." His voice cracked. "I don't know if I can be who you need me to be." 3 weeks passed. We barely spoke. I'd see him in the halls sometimes, but he'd look away, avoid me. It hurt worse than anything I'd felt before, not because I was angry, but because I understood. Gabriel was fighting a war inside himself between the person he'd been taught to be and the person he wanted to become. I gave him space, but I watched from a distance. I saw him eating lunch alone again, saw him staying after school to help Mr. Peterson clean the science lab without being asked, saw him walking away from confrontations even when no one was watching. He wasn't doing it for me anymore. He was doing it for himself. That's when I knew. Real change doesn't happen because someone's watching. It happens in the quiet moments when you choose differently because you want to, not because you have to. One Friday afternoon, I was leaving school when I saw Gabriel sitting on the steps. He looked up as I approached. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said quietly. "I know," I replied. "Can we talk?" I asked. He nodded, and for the first time in weeks, we sat beside each other and just talked, like before, like friends finding their way back to each other. Over the next month, I watched Gabriel transform. Not dramatically, not like in movies where everything changes overnight, but slowly, consistently, deliberately. He
Hey, what
started
are you reading?
Oh, just some history notes.
Looks interesting.
He started showing up to class early, stopped wearing his anger like armor. When people tried to provoke him, he'd just smile and walk away. At first, people thought it was an act, that he was playing some game, but weeks turned into months, and the act never broke. One day, Miss Harrison pulled him aside after English class. "I heard you've been tutoring Kenny Williams in math," she said. Kenny was a freshman, struggling and quiet. No one knew Gabriel had been helping him during lunch. "Just trying to help," Gabriel said, shrugging. Miss Harrison studied him for a long moment. "You're not who they say you are you?" Gabriel looked at her, and for the first time since I'd known him, he smiled. A real smile. "I'm trying not to be," he said. I was there when it happened, standing nearby, organizing books, and I felt something warm spread through my chest. Pride. Hope. Love. That afternoon, Gabriel walked me home. We didn't talk about the past, about the fights or the distance or the pain. We talked about the future, about college, about dreams, about becoming better than our worst moments. The real test came on a Tuesday in March. Marcus Bell, the same bully from months before, decided he wasn't done with Gabriel. He cornered him after gym class in the locker room. My friend Becca texted me frantically, "You need to get here, now." By the time I arrived, a crowd had formed. Marcus was in Gabriel's face, pushing him, saying horrible things about his mother, about him, trying desperately to get a reaction. Gabriel's hands were at his sides, clenched but still. His face was calm, eerily calm. "Come on, Torres," Marcus spat. "Show everyone what you really are. Hit me." I held my breath. The old Gabriel would have destroyed him, would have let all that rage loose. Instead, Gabriel took one step back. "You're not worth it," he said quietly. Then he turned and walked through the crowd. Marcus stood there, stunned. Everyone stood there, stunned. I followed Gabriel outside, found him sitting on the grass, hands shaking. "You did it," I whispered, sitting beside him. "I don't feel proud," he admitted. "I just feel tired." "That's because you're fighting something harder than any physical battle," I said. "You're fighting yourself, and you're winning." After that day, something changed in how people saw Gabriel. The whispers didn't stop completely. Some people would never believe in second chances, but others started noticing, started giving him space to be different. I waited for Gabriel after school one Thursday. We needed to talk, really talk. He knew it too. We walked to the park near his apartment and sat on the swings like children. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Of what?" he asked. "Of hoping," I said honestly. "I'm scared to believe this is real, that you won't go back to who you were." Gabriel was quiet for a long time. Then he took my hand. "I can't promise perfection, Michelle. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to have bad days. There will be moments when I want to react the old way, but I can promise I'll keep trying. Every single day, I'll try."
"That's all I need," I whispered. We sat there as the sun set, fingers intertwined, and for the first time in 8 months, I let myself fully believe. Not in a fairy tale, but in the possibility that people could choose to become better, and that choice could be enough. The final test came on graduation week. Someone broke into Gabriel's locker and destroyed his cap and gown, ripped them to pieces, left them on the hallway floor with a note that said, "Trash belongs in the trash." I found him staring at the mess, jaw tight, breathing hard. The old rage flickered in his eyes. My heart pounded. This was it, the moment that would define everything. A crowd gathered, phones came out. Everyone waited for Gabriel to explode, to prove they were right about him all along. Instead, Gabriel bent down slowly, picked up the pieces of his gown, stood up and looked at the crowd. "Whoever did this must be pretty scared of me graduating," he said, calmly. "Guess I'm doing something right." Then he walked to the principal's office to report it. No yelling, no violence, no reaction, just dignity. I watched him walk away, and tears filled my eyes. The whispers behind me changed. "Did you see that? He's really different. Maybe we were wrong about him." That night, Gabriel called me. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" I asked. "For seeing me when I couldn't see myself," he replied. Graduation came and went. Gabriel walked across that stage in a borrowed gown, and when they called his name, I screamed louder than anyone. Summer passed in a blur. Gabriel got a job at a community center, working with at-risk kids, helping them the way he wished someone had helped him. I watched him pour his past pain into purpose, watched him become the person he'd been fighting to be. 8 months. That's how long it had been since that night in the parking lot when I thought I'd lost him. 8 months of falling, rising, failing, and trying again. People asked me how I did it, how I stayed, how I believed when no one else did, but they were asking the wrong question. I didn't change Gabriel. Love doesn't work that way. Love doesn't fix broken people. It challenges them to fix themselves. Gabriel changed because he decided his past didn't get to write his future, because he chose growth over comfort, because every single day he woke up and decided to be better than yesterday, and I was just lucky enough to witness it. 2 years later, Gabriel and I got married. Nothing fancy, just a small ceremony at the same park where we'd sat on the swings and talked about hope. Mr. Peterson was there, Miss Harrison, even Marcus Bell showed up apologizing for who he'd been in high school. As Gabriel and I stood there, hands joined, I thought about that scared, angry boy I'd met in the library, the one everyone had given up on, the one who'd given up on himself. He wasn't that person anymore. Not because I loved him, but because he chose to rise to that love, because he decided he was worth more than his worst moments. People don't change because they're loved. They change because they choose to become worthy of the love they're given. Belief doesn't excuse flaws, it challenges them, and sometimes 8 months is long enough to completely rewrite a life. As Gabriel kissed me, I whispered against his lips, "I always knew." "Knew what?" he asked. "That you were worth fighting for." He smiled, that real, genuine smile that I'd worked so hard to see. "And I was right," I added. "You were always worth it." To you watching this, do you believe in second chances? Do well to comment, like, and hit the subscribe button. Watch out for the next story.